Alright, so Claude Opus 4.8 just dropped, and the first thing I did was I actually gave it hundreds of thousands of dollars to play with and try beat the stock market. So the way I did that is I basically created an AI agent, so a fully autonomous AI trading agent that wakes up on its own 4 times a day, researches the market, places real trades through a brokerage and writes down everything it learns, and then notifies me, as you can see here, about any updates or anything that happened or any trades that it did, the same way a real trader would do, right? And this happens every single afternoon, and I don't have to touch it. So the wild part is it's not a Python bot. It's there's no separate server. There's no N8N automation. It's just Claude Code, and we use a feature called Routine, and Claude is the brain. And I'm going to talk about that soon. So first, let's kind of talk about, before we kind of get into the video, let's talk about the problem, right? Why did we create this solution, and what problem did we try solve? So the issue was I wanted a trader that never sleeps, right? I wanted a trader that never breaks discipline. And the issue with having a real human being is, I mean, humans, they can't watch the market, 24/7 every single day accurately, right? Even if they can, they might miss some points. And so human was definitely not a solution, right? Having a trader do it for me, or me having to learn it myself, wasn't the option. The other option was to have a normal automation that just runs the same script, no judgment, no research, no learning. But that's kind of the issue, right? It doesn't really do anything. It just runs the same script, irrelevant of how the market acts, and it doesn't have any reasoning for why it does what it does. It's just a script. So the best way to actually solve that, have a trader that never sleeps, that's actually smart enough, is to build an AI agent, right? Not a human, not an automation, but an agent. And that agent basically works on a schedule and can research, decide, trade, journal, and improve using routines. So let's talk about what we're building. So we're building a 24/7 trading agent in Claude Code. And the idea is we're going to use something called routines, which I'm going to talk about later. So we have 5 scheduled routines, Claude Routines, which fire each day. Each one wakes up stateless, reads its memory, acts, and writes back what it learned. Claude is the bot. So you have your first routine would be pre-market research. The second one would be to execute trades, set 10% trailing stops. The third one would be cut losses, tighten winning stops. The fourth one would be EOD summary to click up, right? So as you can see in this example, we got a summary, and these were other times where I got summaries without even knowing, right? This all happens automatically. And then on Friday, you get a weekly review and self-grade, which you also get back with ClickUp. So let's go through the stack. So the stack for this project is pretty simple. You're going to have Claude Opus 4.8 as the brain. It runs every routine. It does the reasoning and web research natively. And then Claude Code routines themselves. So what these are, and we're going to talk about them soon. I actually have them set up here. So these are scheduled cron jobs, right? Jobs that do the same thing every single time, but it uses an agent. It uses a bot, so it actually has a brain. So think of it as an automation, right? A scheduled automation with an agentic brain. So we have these routines that were already pre-configured. As you can see, they happen every single day, and this is kind of what our agent does. So without us having to touch it, it runs those routines. It uses Opus 4.8 as the brain, and it notifies us about trades, summaries, things of that sort. So let's go back where we're at. So yeah, so we have routines. This is the schedule. They're cron jobs that spin up a fresh agent in the cloud. Sorry. And then for the brokerage that we're going to use, like the actual money and the account, we're going to use Alpaca API. You could use any other one. I just decided to use this one for the demo. I'm going to show you how to get the API keys for that as well and set it up. And then for notification, we're going to use ClickUp. Again, this could be any other notification system. You could use WhatsApp. You could use Telegram, whatever works for you. And I'm also going to show you how to get the APIs for these. And then Git is going to be our memory. So every time a routine runs, or our agent actually does something or trades or gets a summary, it updates that memory in Git. Because the idea is we want our agent to be stateless. We don't want our agent to remember anything. We want all that memory to go to Git. So our agent just simply retrieves the memory, uses the memory, updates it, but it doesn't actually hold on to it. So that's the tech stack. Before we start, I want to focus on this one idea. So the mental model, the agent, as I mentioned, is stateless. So the files are its memory, and every run wakes up knowing nothing, right? So every single routine or run wakes up knowing nothing. It reads the memory files, it does the job, it writes back what the next run needs to know, and then it commits to Git. If it's not in main, it doesn't happen. Meaning if it's not in the memory, it didn't happen, right? So reads file, acts, writes to the file, commits, and then repeats. And we're gonna talk about how that actually works. All right. So before we start with the actual build, let me show you kind of a quick little demo. I already showed you the notification systems that we get here, but let me show you how things kind of work all together, right? So we have routines here. I'm going to show you how to set them up in a second. And let's just run one routine manually. These usually would run like kind of in a scheduled manner, but let's run one manually just to see how everything works. So daily summary is a routine we had set up. As you can see, this was already ran manually. I was testing it, and there was also some times where it was scheduled on its own, so it ran on its own. So if we run this routine here, all right, we could see it running as well. So you could also change the model here. Usually I would say Opus is the best, but we're just using Sonnet here for speed. But the idea is obviously you want to use Opus for all these routines, all these jobs, because it is the best model and would probably give you the most accurate results. So as you can see, what it did is it ran a pull for the Alpaca account. It pulled the Alpaca positions, the orders. It did all these things. And again, I'm a bit like, whilst this is running, it's actually a good time to kind of show you guys the Alpaca account. Sorry. So here, this is an Alpaca account. You can create a free account. This is just a paper account, $100,000, as you can see. And I'm not going to show you my API key, but if you scroll down here, you can get your API key, and you're going to need that. Same with ClickUp, right? The way ClickUp works is you have to go here, get your API key, and also get the workspace ID and channel ID. And then I'll show you where to add it soon. So yeah, if you go here, where is it? It's not here. No. In general, I'm missing something. Settings. Oh yeah, ClickUp API. Yeah, so you get your API key from here. And the same way with Alpaca, you can get your API key, and then you would add them to the environment variable here. We have templates, right? You'd add your Alpaca API key, secret key, you can get them from the dashboard, and then same with the ClickUp API key, workspace ID, channel ID. You'd add them here. But we'll talk about that later. Let's just see if the run actually happened. Okay, so as you can see, it did run, and the metrics computed, equity today is this amount, which is accurate. I got it from my account, face P&L, NVIDIA, 10% share. It's giving us all this data. Trades today, none. We didn't have any trades today. And it gave us a daily summary. And what's interesting is just this routine, for example, once it runs, we get a notification. All right, let's go back to our ClickUp channel. As you can see, we just got a new notification here of our daily summary. And if you go to our GitHub, remember when I said that GitHub is our memory, it's where we store everything. If you go to the GitHub, you would see 1 minute ago we had some recent pushes, and then you could go here, one commit ahead, and see what the actual push was. It just updated the snapshot, as you could see. All right, so it updated the memory. So that's kind of just one small example, right? A small little mini demo of what this could do. But again, this runs multiple routines automatically. That's the idea. I just ran it manually for you to see it, but it runs multiple routines automatically, and you don't have to really touch anything, right? It just runs on its own. It updates the memory on its own, because we actually created these routines to do that, right? We have these routines that run every single day. If you go to calendar, and it just updates you. It just updates your ClickUp without you having to actually do anything, right? That's the value, obviously, of using routines and things of that sort. So before we build, I just wanted to talk about, like I said, make sure you have your API keys. Make sure you have everything ready. I have this document here, which I'm gonna have in the link below as well. But using this document, what you can do is, I'm not gonna go through all of it. I'm gonna go through all of it once we have the files in our repository. But what you want to do is you want to go open Claude Code. So I like opening Claude Code using the VS Code extension. You could also have it within your terminal, like here, using Opus 4.8, but I like using it in the VS Code extension. So if you have VS Code, Cursor, whatever, you could download this, and then you could start using Claude Code. And what you want to do is, before anything, you want to create, you want to ask Claude to basically put this file in, this PDF I just showed you, right? This PDF guide, and ask Claude to set up this project for you. Set up this project for me. And then what it's going to do, it's going to give you all these different files. I have them already, so I'm not going to do it again. But that's kind of the idea, right? And then you want to add your environment variables, the one we mentioned, the Alpaca, and the click up here. So once you do that, and let's say you have all the files ready, now let's talk about what each file and each folder actually does and what it means and how it relates to our agent and how this agent is built, right? So let's go to strategy. So step one is strategy, right? So our strategy is basically like teaching a kid how to ride a bike. We write down the rules before you let go, right? These become hard gates that the agent checks before every order. So before we do anything, I'm going to show you the actual file that does this, but we tell the agents that it's stocks only, never options. We have max 5 to 6 positions, max 20% in one name, 10% trailing stop on everything, cut losses at minus 7%, max 3 new trades a week, patience is greater than activity. Experiment, not financial advice, start on paper money. That's why we made the paper Alpaca account, right? It's not actual real money that we're testing with, but with the results that I've seen, it's actually very, very, very good in terms of the performance, right, of the agent and of the trading agent. So let's go to the file that actually does this. So this file would be our trading strategy, all right? Let's go here, trading strategy. So as you can see, this is where we define our strategy. We say no options, we give all these core rules, we give the specific, the capital and constraints, right? Starting capital 10, I mean, it's actually 10,000, but it's actually 100,000, sorry, but here we could say 10,000. Platform Alpaca, stocks only. So this is where you kind of give it all this information. Again, if you just use the PDF that I have here and just ask Claude Code to set it up for you, it's just going to do it for you anyway, and you're going to have all of these already set up. So that's the trading strategy. So next, let's go to the scaffold, right? So the next step is the scaffold. So the folder structure, we have the Claude MD. This is basically the rule book, and it's auto-loaded. So this here is the rulebook that our agent uses. Trading bot agent instruction. You are an autonomous AI trading agent managing 10,000, right? So this is the main prompt that you give it. And then after that, you have the scripts, which are API wrappers. This is the scripts that let your bot actually call and make calls to Alpaca, make calls to ClickUp. So we'll go through scripts and show you where those are at. So you have the Alpaca scripts. Right, this will all be created for you automatically, and then you have the ClickUp scripts right here. So actually, these scripts, just to show you how they work. For example, we had a skill that we created called portfolio, and portfolio actually uses these scripts. So when I did /portfolio, what it did is it ran 3 separate scripts. So it got the Alpaca account info. This is how it did it: bash scripts /alpaca.sh account. And it got the account info. It got the positions, and then it got the orders. So you just switch this, positions, orders, but it's the same script. And then what it did is it gave you back the portfolio, right? So this is an example of how the scripts are used. So you have, like I said, you have the scripts, which are API wrappers, and they call the different platforms. And what you also have is the memory, right? This is the agent's brain. These are the 5 files. This is how the agent stores information and retrieves information again. So you have the project context, the research log, the trade log, the weekly review, right? And the strategy. So this here is the memory, and the strategy obviously uses all of those. So, and this is what happens, and this is what gets updated in the GitHub, right? So the GitHub here, which gets updated after every call, trade log, right? That's one memory that got updated. Another memory might get updated depending on the routine that runs, right? If it makes a trade, it updates another memory. If it gives you a daily summary, it updates another memory. So this here is the memory section. So let's go to the next one. So the routines, right? The routines. This is the core part of this tutorial, Claude Routines. So these are 5 Claude prompts, and I'm going to show you how to use these prompts here to actually create your routines in Claude Code Desktop. And then you have the Claude commands, of course. Before the routines, we have 5 routines. I only had 4 set up in the demo that I showed you, but we actually have 5 routines, and those routines are daily summary, market open, midday, pre-market, and weekly review. And I'm going to show you how to create one routine using the prompt here, right? So this is what you wanna. This is the prompt here for the daily summary routine. You're an autonomous trading bot, stocks only, blah blah blah. You're running the daily summary workflow. Today's relative date is this, and then you give it all these different steps. So let's just say we want to set up this routine, and we have the prompt here. So what we want to do is we want to go to Claude Desktop. As you can see, I already have routine set up here, but I'll show you how to create a new one. So you want to go to Remote. You want to give it a description. You call it something like trading daily summary. And then for instructions, For instructions, you simply just get this here, copy and paste. And again, you're going to get this file from the PDF folder. All these files are going to be given to you from the PDF folder. You're going to decide on a model that you want to use. And then here you're going to add environment variables. So these are basically the variables that are used in your, as you can see, Alpaca secret key, Alpaca endpoint. So these are the API keys that you would have added in the beginning, right, from Alpaca and from ClickUp. Again, the PDF shows you everything. So you have the Alpaca endpoint already, you have the data endpoint, you want to add the API key, the secret key, the ClickUp, and you want to add that in a new in a new environment, right? Keep it as trusted, it's fine. You could have it as full as well. You don't need to add anything in the script bash. So you would basically add your environment variables here. You can add anything for name, you can add anything for setup script, or leave it empty. And then once you do that, you also want to select a repository. So here I actually connected this to my GitHub, and this is how our GitHub memory gets updated each time. So this routine is connected to our GitHub, so every time it runs, it updates the memory. So the way you connect to your GitHub is you want to make sure you connect it from your Claude Desktop. I think you use something called connectors. So you go to connectors and then you connect with your GitHub. So once you press connect, it's going to take you to your GitHub, and you just have to connect through that, and then you can decide which repo you want to have as the memory. So once you do all of these, then you can press select trigger, right? The instructions I said is the one you copy paste from the files. The repository you probably added. We added this one, for example, trading. I already have my environment variables. You add the instructions, which you get from the you get here from the routines file, and then you just schedule, right? You press schedule as the trigger, and you could add whatever interval you want. So for daily summary, you could say 9 a.m. each time, and that's it, right? That's all you need for now. Once you fill these things up, you can then create your routine. I'm not going to create this because I already have a routine set up, but I'm just showing you how to set it up. So you want to do that for all your routines. And you can see how many routines we have here. We actually have 5. So you want to add each. So basically each file here, you want to create a routine for it and connect it to your GitHub and connect it to your environment variables. So once you do that, right, once you have your routine set up, you're pretty much done. This basically covers everything in terms of what we need and what we have. Here all we have is local / commands, right? So these are some / commands that you could run locally. Instead of running it through your remotely, you could run these locally as well. So I mean, like I'll give you an example of some / commands that you could do, and also some things you can run locally. So if you go to not memory, not routine, so portfolio, right? Portfolio is one / command we could run locally, but we could also run daily summaries. You can test those before actually building your routine on Claude Desktop. So let's test a couple of these. Let's go to daily summary and run this. Again, you can run this on your terminal as well, your Claude Code terminal. So / daily summary, it gets the date, it gets the trade log, it's thinking, right? So you can run basically all these routines and test them here locally just by using Claude Code. Showing you how many tokens it's using, As you can see, we already used portfolio before, so that we already saw an example of how these commands work. They're basically called skills as well, right? So your commands are basically called like skills, exactly. Repeatable jobs become explicit skills. So every run behaves the same way, and the agent tells you what to improve on. So research, aside, trade, journal. So these are skills basically, or commands. You could say one or the other. So here, when we did daily summary, it read the trade log, right? So it got the trade log.md, which is our memory. It's asking us, allow this batch command, yes, allow it. And then it runs the command on its own, right? Perfect. And then you get a daily summary done, local, no commit, right? Because it was done locally, right? It's not committed. Flagging needs your decision. Live Alpaca started at 100,000, not 10,000. See, I told you guys this was a mistake. So we actually pointed out that mistake. This is actually the beauty of using routines rather than just automated scripts, is because routines actually have a brain, right? They're using Opus 4.8. So it's not like it just runs a script and if there's an error, it just stops. No, it actually thinks about it and sometimes even solves the error in real time, right? So they're kind of these repeated jobs that have a brain, is basically what routines are. So so we ran, like I said, one routine locally, and I showed you how to run it here already. We already ran this one remotely, and we saw how our ClickUp got updated, right? So and this here was another update. Yeah, baseline mismatch, live accounts 100K. This was the routine we ran locally. Okay, so let's talk about guardrails, right? We went through the project. Let's talk about what guardrails we had in place. So the agent is autonomous and eager, but without limits, it can go off rails, especially in something like financial services or trading, things of that sort. So we decided to obviously use a paper-first account. That was the first guardrail measure we had. So we didn't use real money. We had size caps, right, which we had in our strategy, as I showed you. So max 20% per position, a daily loss cap, no over concentration. Hard never, quote unquote, never rules. So no options. Max trades is 3 trades per week. You can't go beyond that. And check before every single order. Again, this is all you can decide on these guardrails, right? You can make some of them more lenient. You can change them completely. All of these are set in your strategy, tradestrategy.md file. And then watch every run. So reads the logs, tweaks the prompts, builds the plane as you fly in. So this is when we had our memory. Make sure everyone is watched, right? So these are some of the guardrails that we added. You can add more guardrails, you can add less guardrails. It's all based on kind of what you prompt within your strategy and how you actually build your architecture, right? So it's not just about prompts. It's for example, it's about actually using paper accounts instead of real accounts. There's many different guardrails that you could enforce, but these are just the ones that we enforced in this project. So step number 4 is skills. Skills are, like I said, repeatable jobs become explicit skills, so every run behaves the same way. And the agent tells you what to improve on, right? So every Friday it grades itself and proposes a strategy tweak. This is actually in our weekly, if you go here to routines, as you see we have 3 routines, this should be 4, but we have 3 routines happening every day. But on Friday we have a 4th one, where we have an extra one called weekly review. So weekly review, if we run it, for example, this basically gives you the weekly review and only happens at the end on Friday. I mean, now it's going to run because we ran it manually, but it only happens on Friday. Okay, so whilst this is running, I think we could move on. So what else do we have? I think that's it. So yeah, these are the routines. Step 5, we talked about all of them. We have pre-market, market open, midday, daily summary, weekly review. And here's the cron value. This is basically the date, and when it runs, you can have it as just normal date, like 9 a.m. EST, It doesn't have to be this way, but this is the equivalent way. And then you have the jobs. This is what these routines actually do. So pre-market, research catalyst, drafts trade ideas, market open, executes trades, set 10% trailing stops, midday, cuts minus 7% losers, tighten winners, and then you have daily summary, EOD snapshot, ClickUp recap, and then you have the weekly review, which is the stats, the self-grade, the strategy update. And same shape each, environment variable check, it reads, it acts, it notifies, and it commits and it pushes to the GitHub. Let's see here, maybe, yeah, as you can see, the weekly ending routine just ran, and you can see what we got here on the ClickUp page. Okay. So 2 load-bearing rules. What makes a routine bulletproof? So keys live in environment variables, never a .env file, right? It's never a .env. And the prompt says, do not create one. So stop credential leaks, right? So this is what makes your routine bulletproof, and this is why we actually added the environment variables here when we were creating our routines, right? So if you go to routines and create a new one, you see this option here which says add environment variables. Sorry, let me move this. This is why we add them per routine, right? Because we don't want any credential leaks. We want to make sure every routine knows the environment variables and doesn't fetch it. So keys, like I said, live in environment variables, not in .env. And then the commit and push is mandatory. So a fresh clone every run. So if it's not in main, it didn't happen. Git is the memory, stateless run, committed state out. So as you can see, remember, here's the Git. It just fetches the memory from here each time. The routines don't remember anything, right? They rely on this Git repository as their memory. Okay, so deploy and push, we already kind of talked about this. So to deploy this, you want to connect your GitHub repository to Claude Desktop. We showed how to do it. You use connectors, right? You go to customize, you create connectors, and then you just press integrate, and it opens a browser where you can connect. And then you want to create a cloud variable, cloud environment, sorry. So I already created trading. So when you go to routines here, and as you can see, I already created trading. I don't want to show you my API keys, but you would basically add all your environment variables that you have in your .env file here. You give it a name, and then you could use it. And then you create 5 remote routines. I showed you how to create routines, right? You go to routine. I mean, we're already creating one here. You go to remote. You give it a name. For instructions, you just basically get that from your routines folder. So depending on the routine you want to create, daily summary, you copy paste this for instructions. And then for schedule, you add whatever schedule you want. And then you also connect to your repository. Oh, and also, yeah, the model should be Opus 4.8 to make sure you're using the latest model. Turn on allow unrestricted branch pushes on all 5. Yeah, actually, yeah, this is another thing. So permission. Let's see where this is actually at. Add another trigger. Behavior. Connector. Permissions. Oh, I need to add the repository first. Okay, yeah, so when you add a repository, make sure here you go to permissions and you enable this. So make sure you allow unrestricted branch pushes so that the routine can push to your branch, right? And then hit run now to test. Don't wait until 6 a.m. to find a bug. Yeah, I mean, we already tested. And then green run, you get a commit on GitHub, and then you get a message and ClickUp, and you're live. And we already saw that here, right? I already showed you how to run. When you run the routine, I kind of showed you how the whole flow works, how it updates the memory, and it gives us a notification. Again, this happens automatically, right? That's the beauty of using routines. All right, guys, I hope you guys enjoyed. Thank you for following on this video. From here, what you could do is you could tweak the strategy a bit more, right? So if you use the PDF that I'm going to put in the description below, you can get all these files, everything set up for you. Just ask Claude Code to set it up. But you could also tweak some of these yourself, right? So the daily summary, you can decide what it actually does. You could tweak some stuff. If you don't want stocks only, you can change it. In the trading strategy, this is kind of where you can also make most of your changes. I mean, here we're a bit strict. We said no options. We gave it certain things to follow, core rules to follow. And for cost as well, you can have 4 runs a day, which sounds a lot. So you could have maybe more routines, less routines. You can decide on whatever you want to do, but you could use this kind of as your template and play around with it, right? But for the results, I mean, when we tested this, we actually did beat the S&P 500 in the span of, I think, a month. So definitely with Opus 4.8, the capabilities are insane. So have fun with it. As I said, the PDF is going to be below, and the PDF has all the instructions you need, and we'll have the file set up for you. And I'm gonna have it in the description below. if you join our community, or you just click the description below, you'll be able to find it and start building. All right, thank you guys. Peace.